Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video, and today we have a thumbnail tutorial. Now, this is something you guys have been asking me a lot in the comments. I've been getting a lot of private messages and just generally a lot of requests asking me how do I make my thumbnails for my videos and what's the process behind it. Now, if you haven't seen them, then there'll be loads of them floating around on screen like here and here, so you guys can see different little thumbnails. Also, I'll leave a link to the playlist down below of my entire career mode on F1 2018, and focus from season 4 onwards. You'll be able to see the thumbnails for every episode and maybe take some inspiration for yourselves. But pretty much this is my first tutorial of this kind, and I might do more of these. If you do go on to like the video, then drop a like also in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of these kind of videos, and if you do enjoy them, then I'll make more of different things, such as, you know, mod related, whether it be helmets, car liveries, and any other things you guys want to request in the comments, and I'll take it on board and I'll try and make a series out of it. But for this one, we're going to focus on the thumbnails. Now for this, first of all, it's important to realize you're going to need Photoshop. The program I use is Adobe Photoshop CC 2017. It is a program that you have to pay for, as it is part of the Adobe program. However, you can get it online for free, which I have seen plenty of tutorials, and there's ways to do it. So by all means, give it a go, and hopefully you get good luck in terms of getting it for free if you can find a way to do it. But yeah, that's the program that I use, and so you guys know exactly what's going on screen, and hopefully you find this tutorial informative. With that being said, let's jump straight into it and let's see how these thumbnails get looking the way they do. Let's go. So here we are then on Photoshop, and I'm going to try and walk you guys through this step by step. Like I said, I've not done a tutorial before, so hopefully it more or less makes sense, and hopefully I don't get you guys too confused. But yeah, we're going to jump straight into it now. First of all, this is Photoshop. This is how my Photoshop looks. It's custom overlaid. You can adjust the overlay to your liking. Now, we've got the tools on the left-hand side, everything you need. Pretty much the most important things you're going to need for this tutorial are going to be this icon here, which is what I'm using now, which is basically the little icon. Then you've got the rectangular marquee tool, which is the next one down. Then the polygonal lasso, and then finally the paint bucket, which is a little bit further down. Sorry, there's the paint bucket. So pretty much those three tools are the most important ones, along with also the color, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top left, click on File. We're going to create a new file. And then this will bring up a window where you select your overlay. Pretty much you do two options. You do 1920 by 1080, which is for 1080p thumbnails, or you do 1280 by 720 for 720p thumbnails on YouTube. I do 1920 by 1080. So as you can see, I've got the thumbnail preset already made with the width, height, and also resolution. You guys can copy these settings if you like. And then you click on Create. That's going to open up a new window. And this is where your workspace will begin. Now, what I'm going to show you guys is two different things. First, there's going to be the first part, which is what I have on the overlays. So the episode number, the career mode text, and also the little thing I've going around the edge. And then the second part will be the actual race car and the coloring in itself. So let's do the first part first and show you guys how I do the base of my career mode thumbnail presets pretty much. So first things first, to get an idea of how you're working, we're going to get this background the other way around, because working on white is quite tricky when you're trying to do stuff in white color. So you go to Image in the top left. Once you click there, you click on Adjustments, and then a little bit further down you have Invert, which pretty much is going to make it from white to black, as you can see. So pretty straightforward, and now you can start working with the white color and you know exactly what is going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. The best way to create a new layer is by going down to the bottom right, the very bottom right on my Photoshop, and you have these little icons here at the bottom, and there is this one little, just down here, which is just next to the trash bin, and it's called Create a New Layer. We're going to get that on there, and pretty much this is a blank space. So as you can see, I'm clicking on the eye icon, nothing's happening because there's nothing on it. So this is when we're going to start working. So pretty much you're going to get the rectangular marquee tool we mentioned before, and you're going to do we're going to do the edge around the thumbnail, which is in pretty much every F1 channel thumbnail if you look at the F1 YouTube channel. So pretty straightforward. You get a little section and you're going to just select it pretty much. Kind of eyeball it. It's not really a big deal. Once you have that section, you can get the paint bucket, color that in, and job done. You once again, I personally click on the rectangular marquee tool again, and then click on a blank space to get rid of the border edge, because for some reason sometimes the border stays on and that kind of messes things up. So yeah, just pretty much click on the blank space. Once you use it, you'll know what I mean. So pretty much we have our little white line. So what you want to do after this, you want to duplicate it and obviously go all the way around. So it's very simple. You right click on the layer. There's a tab here that's duplicate the layer. You click on that, you press OK, and you will have now two lines. As you can see, we're going to drag that down. We're going to put that down to the bottom of the screen, kind of eyeball it more or less, make sure the spaces are more or less the same. And then once you have that one, obviously we need a vertical layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate once again. We're going to press OK. And once we have it, here's where the difference comes into play. There's two things you can do here, and little Photoshop top tip. You can do Control T, which selects the part you've got, and you can actually change from any of these corners. You can actually change, the dimensions of the part, which that's pretty much a free transformer tool. Option B is actually, you can actually rotate by using Control T, as you can see here. And then option C is the one that I use. You're going to edit in the top left, then you scroll down to transform, and then that will open up a new tab where you go into rotate 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise. In this case, it makes no difference, and that's going to rotate it vertically. Once you have that, you can then more or less adjust it, put it in place, and then you're going to use Control T once again to drag this down so it fits and gets nicely into place. As you can see here, we're just going to try and make sure that looks nice. And there we go. It's very easy in Photoshop with the purple lines, which are kind of predetermined in Photoshop. It kind of stops for you. You don't have to be precise with the mouse. It will kind of stop for you. It's called snapping. So once you've got that, you've got a rough idea of how this works, and it kind of looks like the actual F1 thumbnails. Now, if you want to go into more detail, you can actually do the actual curve on the edges. So the way you would do this is, first of all, you merge everything. You bring it all together as one, because otherwise it's very annoying to work with. You right click on, or first of all, should I say, you click on one layer and then, hold down the shift key, and then that will select everything for you. Or you can hold down Control and click one by one, whatever you prefer. Once you have all of it selected, you right click on merge layers, which is a bit further down, and then once you pull that all together, you've got one layer, which is this little section here. Now, in order to make a curve, you're going to go up to the top left, click on the rectangular marquee tool, and you're going to select the section. So we're going to cut this out, and you're going to want to more or less eyeball it, make sure it's consistent. So that section there, we do not want that. We want to make that a curve, so we're going to get rid of that. Whoops, as I right click, we're going to get rid of that section. Once you've got that gone, you can then zoom into the space, as you can see here. We're going to line it up nicely for our overlay. I use the scroll on the mouse to zoom in. That's not predetermined. You have to adjust that in the settings on Photoshop. I think you have to do it a different way, but I like using the scroll wheel. So once you have your section here, as you can see, we're now going to change to the Polygonal Lasso tool. So it's one down from the rectangular marquee. You select the next one down, and this is where the magic takes place. And this is where you need a little bit of an eye and a bit of, creative instinct, so to speak, to try and make something happen. So what you do is you scroll along the edge and you're going to try and eyeball it. So for example, you're going to start curving your way. Pretty much this thing is free. You can do whatever you want in terms of movement. And then when you click down, that's when it's going to pretty much save the piece. The more clicks you do and the more you press down on the button, the less you're going to notice the jaggy edges, and it's going to look a lot more round. So I suggest you have patience, you take your time, and you make sure you do a good job. So as you can see, I'm going to try and bring it in here. Not my best job, but you know what? It's just a tutorial, so for now that will do. Again, you go down, then you move on to the inside. Try and keep it consistent with what you've done on the outside. Try and match it up if you can, as best as you can. You can always retouch it after by a couple of tips I'll show you after. And pretty much just bring it all together. And then once you've got that section, you once again get the paint bucket and you paint in the area. And then that is all you need. Now, another top tip, once you've got this kind of curve section, if you want to do it again at the bottom and you don't want to go through the hassle of doing it again by hand, and you want to have the exact same carbon copy because you've nailed it or whatever, you right click on this and you click layer via copy. That will open up a new layer, which is actually another curve in itself, as you can see here. So you've now got this copied, pretty much copy and pasting a homework in a way, kind of cheating. Now, obviously, this does not work when it comes to the bottom of the screen. So as you can see, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. This won't work down here. How do we make this work? So you can use Control T and you can try and eyeball it more or less, but that is very annoying to get it perfect. So the best way to do it is, once again, the way I said before, the way I do it. You go to Edit, Transform, and in this case, you're going to go Flip Vertical. As you see, we've now got it rotated, and all you got to do is slide it into place, more or less eyeball it, and I'd say that is it. Once you kind of see the edges kind of vanish, that's it. So once you've got that, you want to then delete what you have left on the other one. Now, this is kind of a bit of an annoyance because you've got to kind of guess where the other piece is. So the best way to do it, in my opinion, is you get the edge you had before, you go into the image adjustments, and you go into invert like we did before right at the start of the video to get that in black. So you know exactly where you're working with. And then all you got to do is get the rectangular marquee tool and select the area where you want it to cut off, as you can see here, more or less about there, I'd say. Get rid of the bottom layer, get rid of your edge, and then click back on the layer from before. You go back into image adjustments, you re-invert it back to white, and there you go, you've got your edge. And then you select the two layers and bring them together by merging, and there you go, you've got your curved edges and your thumbnail overlay. Now, this is the most complicated part of thumbnail. After this, all you've got to do is go on Google, search for the F1 font, literally just type in Formula 1 font, 2018 preferably, of course. Look for it, download it, and once you've got it, you can type anything. So I'm going to, in this case, you could do career mode. I'm going to do it the other way, the way I do it, so with capitals. So we're going to do career mode, as you can see. We're going to get that on there. Once you have that, all you've got to do is drag it into more or less where this white line is. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can eyeball it. And then all you've got to do is cut out the part of the white you do not want. So we're going to just go like this, cut that off. You select the area you don't want, you get rid of it, and there you go. Pretty straightforward. And then finally, you do your number. Once again, you select the text. You put it in the bottom left. You do hashtag, let's say 75, and that is it. All you've got to do then is drag that down to place. There you go. Photoshop does it all for you because these grid lines, and you haven't got to do anything. And that's pretty much, in essence, the base of my career mode thumbnails. Obviously, little details here and there. You can take a lot more time, refine it, make it look a hell of a lot better. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I said, there's lots of things you can do with this border on the outside. You can do it in lots of different ways. There's 4 corners on a square, so you can rotate it around. A top tip for thumbnails, and something I recommend, if you look at any YouTube thumbnail, in the bottom right is the timer of the video and how long the video lasts. So bear in mind that corner of the thumbnail most times won't be visible. So for example, a tip I'll give you, don't put the episode number down here if you can avoid it, because you might not see it because of the YouTube video timer. That's a top tip I can give you guys. But pretty much this is it in essence. Pretty straightforward in my opinion, and it does the job. Now, a tip that I would give you when it comes to this little arch design around the edge, if you really get it perfect and you're happy with it, I recommend you save that as a preset by itself. And what I mean, I'll give you an example. As you can see, I'm going to open up a new file here. This is my Photoshop file. So if we go into thumbnails, this is where all my thumbnails happen. I have a F1 channel style thumbnail swoosh, I've called it. And if I open that up, you can see here, all it is this edge. And that's all it is. And I've got that, a preset. And when I make any other video that's not career mode, I've got that as a guideline to build upon, and I can do whatever I want with it. And it's a top tip. If you get the circle perfect, as you can see here, the circle really turned out quite nice, in my opinion. I was very happy with it, got the measurements right. Yeah, you can pretty much save it, and I would recommend saving it as a separate thing, and you can use it for any thumbnail. So yeah, pretty much that is it in essence. Now we're going to close this because this is done now, and I'm going to show you guys how to move into the second part of the tutorial. So as you can see, I'm going to open up another preset. This is my career mode preset thumbnails. As you can see, we have one of the latest thumbnails in the series. We've just removed the images from the background. We have the base, which I just did a tutorial for. Now this one's obviously a lot more detailed. This one I took my time with, made sure it worked out perfectly. But now, how do we add all the color and all the action to the thumbnail? This is the next part of the tutorial. Right, so first of all, you want to get the image that you want to use for the thumbnail. So we're going to open up obviously a file, and in my case, I've got it in my recordings folder. So we're going to go into F1 2018, and we have a couple of different images here. I'm going to go for the last one, which is the one that I used on purpose. Now, as you can see, this is for my career mode episode. Now, this one's already been altered a little bit. It's been adjusted. So what I've done is for this, the first thing I'll always do with a screenshot is go into filter, and I'll right click on the screen. I'll go to sharpen, and I'll click on the sharpen icon, and it really makes the car and just the picture as a whole look very sharp. I've already done it in this case, so it's not going to make any difference. So yeah, I do recommend that as a little top tip. And then also other adjustments to make to the image. You go into image in the top left, you go there to adjustments, and then you go to vibrance, and here you can obviously adjust how much the color pops on the thumbnail, as you can see here. So pretty straightforward step. I always recommend adding a little bit to give it a little bit more color, a little bit more depth. And then the last tip is to go adjustments once again. Brightness and contrast this time, and here you can obviously adjust the contrast and how bright you want the card to look. And this one is a magical step, especially when it comes to the coloring part at the end of the thumbnail. But anyway, that's done. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this image, we're going to drag it. So you literally click on the image, hold down your left click, and drag it over to the tab where your career mode is. As you can see, let go, and then you've got it on there. What you've got to do is fit it into the corners, make sure it's all lined up. And then it's important to drag the layer down towards the bottom. This has to be at the bottom of the thumbnail. And obviously, so you can get all that text and overlay in front of it. So what you do is, very straightforward. You want to fit it. So obviously the car's the most important thing. You want that to be as big as possible. Therefore, all you do is you do Control T, and here's a top tip. If you drag these corners with literally Control T, you let go of Control T, just right hand, you drag these corners, you can adjust the image, but it's going to mess up because you can kind of squash the car or make it too wide. So my top tip is you do Control T, and if you hold down the Shift key, which is in the bottom left, there's a little arrow that goes up. If you hold it whilst you're moving, it won't move. The image will stay the same. It'll keep the dimensions the same, which is what you want in the thumbnail. So there's lots of ways you can do this thumbnail, in my opinion. I'm still undecided. There's 2 ways I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to show you guys 2 methods of doing it. Pretty much, the first one is keeping this image as it is and making it a little bit bigger. So obviously you can see some blank space in the corners here. So I want to try and really maximize the size of the car if I can, without cutting off the sponsors here, which is important. I feel like there's a little bit of detail, and also without the rear wing showing. So you want to try and maximize what you can out of it. So pretty much that's just about as much as I'm going to go. That's going to be one version. Now, the other version I'm going to show you real quick. So I'm undecided. I'll probably do it after the video, to be honest, and I'll make my decision afterwards. The other version is to make it a hell of a lot bigger. So as you can see, we're going to go nice and big there. Keep that Mercedes logo in because that's important. But we're going to try and get it, I'd say about there. That's like a good spot, I would say. Maybe a little bit, try and go a little bit higher so you can actually go up a little bit. And I reckon something like that might be option 2. I can go a little bit bigger. I think there's a little bit more space to gain there. You can see the Mercedes AMG logo. It's not really close enough, so I can definitely gain a little bit more space. Front wing as well, a little bit closer. So that might be the other option. It's either this one or this one. At the moment, I'm leaning towards this one. So we're going to do the thumbnail on this preset. So once we've got the image in place, we've fit it to how we like it. This is when the magic happens. So you right-click on your layer, as you can see here. You're once again you're gonna duplicate it like we did before. Very simple, and this is very, very special. It's the part that really you see stand out in the thumbnail. So once you have your layer, you're going to select the top one. So basically this is above. This is what you see. You don't see what's behind it, and this is where the magic happens. So you go into Image, top left, Adjustments, and then you go to Hue and Saturation. That's going to bring up a coloring screen here. What you do is, first of all, you click the Colorize box, and you'll see what happens. As you can see, the car changes color, because what happens is if you don't choose Colorize, you can see if I scroll this, the colors, it looks pretty cool, but it doesn't really make any sense for an F1 thumbnail. So the best way to do this is you click Colorize, and then obviously you've got your color gradients here. The important factor and the most important key here is saturation. It's on 25 by default. You want to drag it all the way to 100, and then you're getting that pop, that color that you want. In this case, the way I do this is depending on the car. So the Mercedes is silver with an underlying turquoisey blue theme. Therefore, the background I'll go for is a turquoise blue. In my opinion, when it comes to the color scheme, you can bounce between 222, which is the darkest possible blue in my opinion, all the way up to about 170, which is the turquoisey green without going too green. Anywhere between that, from 170 to 222, you can play around with that value. Now, what I would normally do last season is actually by default load up 190, and then I would basically work around this, and then later on, once I finish the process as a finishing touch, I would duplicate the layer once again, as I'll show you here. And what I would do is I would make it an extra 20 units darker. So I would go, if it was 190, I'd go to 210, which is a darker blue. And then this is where the trick happens. So you underlay the layer, you get your rubber, and as you can see, if I get the rubber on, let's say 50, not too dark, but if you rub the edge off, actually wait, that's my mistake. There we go. If you rub the edge off, you can see here, you get those darker tones of blue pop up while still keeping that bright blue. But that is the secret tip for afterwards. But bear that in mind. This is what we did last season. So let's get rid of this. Let's go back to the workstation. So like I said, anywhere between 170 and 220. Now for this season, I want to go a little bit more greenish with the turquoise. So we're going to start off at 170. As you can see here, we're going to get that on. We're going to go colorize. Yeah, I didn't do the colorize box there. We're going to go colorize, 170, saturation on 100, and there we have the green. Now, on the layers in the bottom right, you can see here, if I untick the eye, we've still got the default one behind it, so we're not losing that. It's important to not lose the original image, because otherwise it's not going to work. Once we have the turquoise green, this is when we start putting in the work. So you zoom into the image, and this is where the thumbnail takes a bit of time. So here you're going to now click on the Polygonal Lasso tool, and you're going to start selecting. So I'm going to speed this up, but pretty much you start selecting. You can do a rough. I'm quite a perfectionist, and I get a bit of OCD when it's not right, so I like to stick to the edge if I can. You can do it very quick if you're in a rush, and you can more or less eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course. Thumbnails in the day, they get compressed by YouTube so much. But all you got to do is more or less set around the edge. Keep it nice and relatively tidy, because there are little details that will show up and you will notice them. For example, the curbs in this case in Australia, they're green and yellow. So you will see that if you miss a cut or leave a little bit too much space in behind. So you've got to do is go around, and there's little details you need to worry about. So for example, we're going to go around this wheel. You can see there, it's not a perfect circle, but enough to just keep it, nice and tidy underneath the car here. We're going to keep it more or less eyeball the car edge, the floor. Just watch the details, and then we're going to come up over the top just for now, just to give a bit of an idea. I'm actually going to correct that. You can go backwards by clicking the delete button. So literally just press delete and you can go back if you're not happy with something. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You just keep deleting all the way back. And we're just going to go around this. See there, I don't know if you can see in the video, but I've gone a little bit too high up there, and you're going to see the road. So we're going to go back a space and straighten it up a little bit. There we go. Straighten it up. Keep it nice and tidy. I think I'm not going to speed this up. I think I'm going to keep this normal speed, because I want you guys to see how I do it. So here we go. Just around the edge. Make sure you get all the bits of the car in here, and you'll see why in a moment's time. So we're going to go down. A little bit of bodywork there. It's important to have a keen eye. Look at the details. Again, more bodywork here, around here. And then this is a bit tricky. Just going to kind of guesstimate where the bodywork is. Around the edge again, and then straighten up with the front of the front wing. And this is where the magic happens. So once you've selected your space, it's important to make sure you've left no details behind. So you untick the layer and you look. Now you see, I've realized I've made a mistake here, because there's little details you'd miss sometimes. So for example, in this green version, it looks fine. But then if you take the paint off, you can see in this little cavity here, you've still got grass, which is going to show up. Because essentially, we're going to delete the blue off of the car. That's what we're going to do. So this little cavity here still has grass. So what you do is, in order to access this little cavity, because we've already selected this area, how do you go into an area you've selected? Because if you select this area again, as you can see here, nothing's going to happen. Nothing happens because you've already selected this area. So there's no point in doing it again. So the way you actually go back into this and fix it is very simple. You right click and you select inverse, which is the second option here. If you do that, it's going to flip the process. So right now, what is selected is the outside, and the car is not selected now. So if I delete, as you can see, the car stays blue and the background comes off, which is not what we want. So what you do is, it's very simple. You now go into the cavity and you select the part that we missed. We're going to get this more or less as clean as we can. The more you click, the more precise it will be. Remember that. I'm just going to stick to the car edge, and there we go. Once we've got that area, is selected, you can see there. Now, once again, we right click, select inverse again, go back to what we had. And this time, as you can see, if we delete, the car will go back to normal. So that's exactly what we want. So we can continue on now. There are little bits of green bits there and there, but like I said, you don't have to be too perfect with it. Now we're going to go to the rest of the car. So for example, the side pod areas in this year's game with the cars nowadays, they're very complex. You've got to be very careful with them. So make sure you see no grass. In this case, I see no pockets of space, no holes. So we can literally follow the outline. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue on here, selecting all this. You ain't going to be too perfect. Just, more or less. The road's fine. With the Mercedes car, at least, you can get a little bit of grey road. That's fine because the car's silver. But with, for example, if it was a Ferrari, you've got to be careful. I'm just going to keep going here. Keep going. Just go around the halo and then over the engine cover now. Very straightforward. Just keep it, more or less rough. That little point can stay out. It's not important. And then we're going to make our way down the engine cover here. And because this vanishes behind the white, it's not really important, so you can just kind of go over it. There you go. And then around the outside of the image, because this is not affected. So you go around the edge and you bring it back into the bodywork down here, down the bottom, along the bottom. There we go. Click, click, click. And then to join this up, you have to find your starting point. But don't go through here like this, because you're going to have a space in the middle. There's no point. You might as well get the job done. So you might as well go back into your previous workspace, which is already selected, and conjoin it there. And there you go. Your car is selected. So now this is where the magic happens. You literally press delete, bang, and there you go. There's your car. Get rid of the edge. And that is, as you can see, how a thumbnail starts to form. So you've got your color on there, and this is when you start doing your little tricks. So like I mentioned before, you can duplicate it, go darker, and make it look really cool. So we're going to do that right now. You right click on the image, you duplicate the layer, And what's duplicating is the color, not the car. You don't need to duplicate the car. You go to image, adjustments, hue and saturation, and then you're going to go darker. I'm going to go darker by 30. As you can see, quite a darker blue. Then you put that underneath the light blue, because the dark always has to be underneath the light color when it comes to this trick. And then you get your eraser or your rubber, as you can see here. I've got it on 50 flow, which is basically 50 opacity pretty much, to put it short. So you start deleting where you would like to put some extra color. So for me, with thumbnails, you want the text to stand out. Therefore, if you've got a white text, the best background is black. You have to get a dark background. Now, with this shade of blue, which is 170, it's quite light. Therefore, you need to compensate for it. How do you do that? By deleting the background. So here we go. We're going to start from the left. We're going to drag across, as you can see, over the career mode text. Look, we're kind of going down a bit, kind of following the thumbnail. And then you want to clean up the top. Make sure the top's got no light blue left on it. And then once again, you're going to go at the bottom where the episode number is. Along the bottom like that. Keep it nice and tight. Don't go too into the thumbnail. And that's the start point. Now you go into the flow again. You want to go down to 10%, which is very light. It's not very heavy on the blue. And here is when you start merging it and bringing it in a little bit. So very smoothly, you do see it happen, especially if you're doing it in front of yourself. You can see it with your own eyes. And you just start bringing it in, you know, down the edge here a little bit. Try and bring that blue in a little bit. And then I reckon that I'm pretty happy with that. So what we're going to do is, another top tip. Once you've got your two colors, you can see here what we've done. You can duplicate the light green if you want to really make it pop a little bit more. In this case, I don't need it because I don't want it to be that strong. So what you do, the finishing touch, you bring the two color layers together as one by merging them. So you can see we have the original picture, colored version. And then on this color version, you click image, adjustments, and then here you go, brightness and contrast. Like I said right at the start, when we brought the image up, you can really make this pop. So as you can see with the contrast here, you can really make the image stand out a hell of a lot. So I'm going to go for about 50 on the contrast, which is what I normally go for. 50 here. And then brightness, this makes a huge difference. You can see there, it's very powerful. Use it wisely. You can see what it does. It's completely night and day difference. So the stronger your contrast is, the more your brightness will notice. That's a top tip. So for example, if I did 100 on the contrast, the brightness is going to be even more ridiculous. So I'm actually going to go a little bit higher. I reckon instead of 50, I'm going to go 75 contrast. I actually quite like it. Actually, I'm going to go 85. I'm going to go a little bit. I want to go quite high because it looks quite good. It looks quite natural with the shadows underneath the car. And then brightness, this is when it looks pretty cool because the darker you go, the more you notice the little dark edges. But I don't want to be too dark. You know, if you go light, it's going to pop more visually. So there's a nice little balance to it. So in this case, I'm going to go for about minus 15, I reckon. That's going to be a nice balance. And then finally, we do the episode number, which is 86. And then pretty much that is it for our thumbnail. That is how my career mode thumbnail for season 6, and I actually like how it's turned out. It looks absolutely great. That is how it's going to look going for the new season, guys. And in essence, that is a tutorial on how to make thumbnails for career mode. So I'm going to get rid of the one that I was going to do the second version with because I don't want it. I'm happy with it. And yeah, pretty much you can actually get rid of the background. If you don't like it, you just get rid of it, as you can see. And you can just run the normal background if you don't want to have color on it, and you can just have the career mode overlay. I love the color. I think it adds, you know, a different level to the thumbnail in my opinion. And yeah, I'm gonna open up a couple more for you guys so you can see a few examples, not just that one obviously, so you guys get an idea of some of the thumbnails I've been doing this season for career mode. So let's open up a couple of different ones. So we'll go for the purple one there, the Williams. We'll go for this one here as well, which is pretty good. We'll go for that one, and we'll go for that one. So a couple of different thumbnails. Let's open these up, and you guys can get an idea of what... I'll explain the process in some of these so you get an idea of what we've done, because I think this might be quite a good idea for you guys in terms of different creativity things. So we're going to start from left to right. So first of all, this is a AOR thumbnail for pull record, as you can see. Pretty simple. We do the same process. You cut out the background. You adjust the edge to how you want it. You can get rid of the career mode font. You can put pull record or whatever circuit you're racing at. And the background, we just made it orange pretty much. Very straightforward with a little bit of black around the edges. So I literally got the paintbrush, and with the black color, I just went around the edge like this, as you can see, like I'm doing now, just around the edge, and that does the trick. pretty simple. So that's the orange version. Now this one, the Mexico one, I love this one. This one looks so cool. It looks even better when you see it in Photoshop. So this was a video in itself where I got a lot of questions asking me how did I do it. So in this one, it's very simple. On the Hue and Saturation, on the color slider, as I'm going to bring it up so you guys can understand better. So on the color slider, it's very simple. You can see the purple and the pink here, so you just drag it more and more towards it. So in this case, if I do colorize, so it makes more sense. What I did was, same again, 2 colors, because you did the main color first, the bright color. So I'll say around 310. Okay, a little bit more than that. Actually, no, yeah, 310. So I did 310, and then you duplicate the layer. So I want to duplicate it now. Duplicate the layer, and then you're going to do a little bit, you're going to do a darker color. So I'm going to say around 260 maybe, no, a little bit more than that. I want to say 280. Okay, I'll go 270. So you go 270, and you've got your 2 contrasting colors. And then all you do is get the eraser. As you can see, you can get that effect of different color purples. So yeah, that's that one. Very happy with how that one turned out. Then we have this one for career mode with the Williams. Same concept. We did a background in blue, and then we duplicated it in red, and we just simply erased the part we didn't want. Very straightforward. And then finally, for example, you can do different options. So if you have a very bright or white thumbnail, you can actually change the colors of the elements on screen and make it different. Like in this case, we went for the blue. So pretty much very straightforward, guys. Hopefully you found the tutorial informative. Hopefully the video is not super long. I do talk a bit, but I feel like explaining the details is very important. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for this tutorial. And if you did enjoy it, then please do drop a like. Let me know in the comments down below what ideas, what things you want. Maybe I can help you guys with some things, and also helmets, car liveries, or any other things you guys can think of. Just put in the comments down below, and I'll try and make a video about it maybe, or reply to your comment and help you out. And pretty much, guys, that's going to be it. So if you enjoyed the video, like I said, drop a like. Do get subscribed for daily Formula 1 content, and turn on notifications by clicking the little bell icon next to the subscribe button. And also check out these 2 videos, guys, on your screen if you have missed them. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. But until then, it's goodbye from me.